Hello, I'm Scott Stewart. I'm here with my colleague Omar Lamrani, and today we want to talk about really the battlefield in Syria and kind of updating it. We do a lot of written updates, but I thought it'd be good to kind of do a video format, kind of talk through the different areas of Syria and what we expect to see going forward. So Omar, let's kind of divide it into some different geographical areas. Let's talk about the Northeast first.
Okay, so in the Northeast, we see the main American-backed push by the Syrian Democratic Forces, which consists of primarily Kurdish forces, the YPG, but supported by what is called the Syrian Arab Coalition, 3,000 to 5,000, mostly tribal fighters. And this force has demonstrated success in the last few months. They've taken al-Hawl and they've pushed back the Islamic State in Hassakeh and in some parts of Raka province. Now, we just heard that the Americans have supplied them with additional ammunition to back their continuing offensive southwards from Hassakeh towards other key logistical hubs for the Islamic State.
Now, we in addition to the weapons, though, we keep hearing the concept of American boots on the ground there, especially Special Operations Forces helping them. Is this one of the places where you think that we would see that?
Yes, I think this is the primary place where we will see that. The American Special Operations Forces are already on the ground now, and the Americans are calling on their allies to send additional Special Operations Forces. Now, these Special Operations Forces are key for coordinating these forces, creating that bridge between these forces on the ground and the air support that's been very pivotal and important to support these attacks against the Islamic State by the SDF. And
we've seen a little bit of a change in the types of air platforms in the region, correct?
That's right. We've seen a rotation. Now we have presence of the A-10s, which have been quite pivotal. I mean, they're really good at attacking ground targets. And then probably with the withdrawal of the F-15s recently, they're probably going to be replaced by other platforms like the F-16 or other aircrafts. And then we obviously have other naval fighters that are operating from the Persian Gulf or strategic bombers like the B-1 that are also in the area.
Well, of course, one of the things with having the Americans there is it kind of speeds up the close air support circle. I mean, they had this roundabout system for a while where they were calling over to Erbil, but there was a delay there and a lag. But now with having Americans on the ground, able to actually talk to the pilots and vector them in, that will speed things up a lot. And that's really a significant battlefield magnifier. I think that we really saw the efficiency and the effectiveness of that in Afghanistan. Yes. Following the U.S. invasion. So I think we could see some continued progress in that theater.
Yes.
Now, as they're moving down the river, to the south out of Hassakeh, do you expect that we'll see them, make it towards Deir ez-Zor anytime soon?
Not within the next few months. I think there's considerable villages ahead of them that are heavily occupied by the Islamic State. I think it will take significant more time for them to push through all that and then reach Deir ez-Zor.
Of course, the other significant target in that sector is Raka, the Islamic State's capital. What do you think about the offensive against that and the idea of an offensive against Raka?
Well, Raka is the self-declared capital of the Islamic State. To the Islamic State, maintaining a hold on Raqqa represents them actually holding terrain and ground, pivotal terrain and ground within the region, in addition to other places like Mosul. And so losing Raqqa will really demonstrate that they are losing territory and that their strategy is not really working as well as they expected. So I think if the SDF, with the American support, is able to take Raqqa, that will be a significant blow for the Islamic State.
I think beyond the symbology, though, too, it is just the terrain and the lines of communication, the roads, because
Absolutely.
It's where it's on the river. If you're able to kind of punch down and take Raqqa,
yes.
You kind of also split the Islamic State forces into different areas, and it makes them difficult for them to operate along those internal lines of communication.
Yes.
And kind of splits them up.
And it splits them off from the key area where they get most of the recruits and most of their logistics from the external world, namely that's approximately 100 kilometers of the border between Syria and Turkey, west of the Euphrates that they hold. If you take Raqqa and you push a little bit beyond it, those lines towards that area are going to be cut.
Absolutely, and that's really the next theater we need to talk about.
Right.
Is that northwest sector. What's happening there right now?
That's another American-backed offensive is in the works, but this time not really with the SDF as much as with Turkey and with other FSA, Free Syrian Army affiliated rebels. It's difficult to get this one off the ground, contrary to the one to the east, because of the pressures from the loyalist offensives and the campaign in Aleppo. But we have seen some preliminary attacks by these rebels, backed by the Americans and backed by other forces that have taken some villages, and these villages are close to the important town of Tabik as well.
Yeah, and Dabiq is kind of also like kind of the prophetic town where Islamic State claims that they're going to, have this final battle between them and the Crusader forces of the world.
Right.
So that'll be really interesting to see what happens as Dabiq comes into jeopardy and as they lose that, if they put a lot of resources, which I suspect they will. I mean, we saw them kind of dash themselves against the rocks of Kobani,
yes.
But I think we'll probably see a similar effort, not only, Raqqa, of course, their capital, but I think also Dabiq,
yes.
Because of the ideological and symbolic importance of those cities.
Yes.
Well, Omar, we're running out of time, and we unfortunately, there's a lot to talk about here. But for more, please come to our site, www.stratfor.com, and read what we write and how we analyze the war in Syria.